Hello everybody, this is I Have a Samurai. I am Jay playing Amy on the left versus Sophie on the right being played by Zefukai. I don't believe this is a matchup that I've done on a video yet, and if there's a Sophie player to do a video on, it would definitely be Zeph. We've played a handful of times in Soul Calibur 4 and 5, and this is the first time that we've played this particular matchup. I think that Sophie is a matchup that Amy can do relatively fine with. It's not a character that you necessarily have to worry about trying to get in all the time, dealing with range problems. It's one where you could potentially even space out when you get red roses, and 4A becomes something that's very difficult to deal with. The one thing that I found in this set, maybe it has to do with Sophie, maybe it has to do with Zeph specifically, but Zeph is very good at constantly GIing, and I think GIs are an incredibly powerful tool to deal with Amy. You know, in terms of universal panic options, Reversal Edge is really not all that great against Amy. She has a ton of things that can get away from it, and even if you are correct about it, you have to worry about potential strings, and it's a real big hassle. But GIs are incredibly good because I'm throwing out so many pokes, you're getting so many opportunities for a GI, and they're good GIs because, again, you're GIing pokes, you're GIing really fast moves. So I have a lot of stun that I have to worry about. Not to mention she gets tons of post-GI lethal hits and extra damage, more lethal hits if she's more successful on GIs. It can be a real big hassle. But why don't we get started with this? Zeph told me before that he always is essentially looking for a 2-2B and 1B, and you can definitely see that being demonstrated in the matches that I have here. So he's automatically starting out with a jump. I'm assuming he was trying to get away from a 1B rather than trying to get away from a 4A, but it's essentially the same thing. So I'm trying to get in with 6A. I end up getting one of my normal pressure strings. So here he takes an interesting idea of going for like this auto parry high. That's one thing that Zeph is really good at, is mixing up his hit levels all the time. He goes through different series that includes lows and highs and mids, and effectively all do the exact same thing, so it's pretty good. He ends up kind of like trolling me a little bit here, but I end up getting a red rose out of it, so I appreciate it. And so he's immediately trying to step again, right? And he's really good with like the post-grab kind of like pseudo mix-up that he's got going on as well. 2-2B and 1K are definitely tools that he's going to be using a lot. One of the things that I definitely have to work on in this matchup is doing the appropriate punishes on certain things. So he was doing, you might remember before, he was automatically trying to poke with highs, which is why I went for the high parry when I normally go for the mid one. I'm trying to adapt to what my opponent's hit levels are going to be as well. Sophie's one of those characters, along with somebody like Yoshimitsu or Zhang Hua, who tend to poke with highs, where other characters poke with mids. So you see here, he's going like, mid, high, mid, and they're all catching my step. I'm clearly going for like a 2-2B, which is a little bit obvious. So I end up getting the 2-2B, which ends up giving me my last red rose. I decided to spend the bar, which is effectively going to make him spend his bar, which I'm relatively okay with. And so here, he's constantly stepping, yet again. Any opportunity that he has to sidestep, that's what he's going to do, to get away from Amy's strongest tools. So, I kind of go through, that was a very similar series that I had earlier on in the match. 6A on hit, into 3A on hit, into 1B. And now he's able to get away from it. But now I have a much better tool to deal with constant sidestepping in 4-4A. So I'm lucky that Zeph gets a little bit ambitious there. That was probably not the best idea in the world. I don't think he was aware of where he was on the stage, because there's really not a whole lot of risk going for the low instead versus, potentially losing the entire round like he did there. So here he decides to challenge on 6-6A on hit, which is something that I always tell people to do. Amy is +2 after 6-6A on hit, so at worst, if you tend to mash, the only thing that I'm really going to have that's going to beat your mash is going to be something like 3A or 2A. So a lot of people tend to do stuff like GI or reversal edge there. Yeah, I much more appreciate what Zeph's trying to do there with poking out. There's the 236KK reset there, as opposed to going for the full damage. And so there I'm just kind of mixing up, again, kind of like going mids and lows. It's not much different than what he does. But I'm also trying to make the timing a little bit awkward so that I'm trying to like potentially bait out GIs or at least not get hit by them. So there I could have punished with a 6BB, or hell, even punished with a super. There's no reason for me to keep the meter, so I decided to go with the soul charge to get out of dodge. So there's the mid parry A plus B that you get when you have a soul charge, which as far as I know combos into a 4BB. This is one of the other reasons why Sophie 2-2B is really good. It's not very often that you have a move that can deal with Amy 6-6A and thread the needle like you just saw there, where he got the tech crouch right before the mid from 6-6A became active. So that can be very frustrating to deal with. And so because he used 6-6A plus B, or I think it's a different input in this game, he put himself in a situation where I had a mid-low mix-up, and I went for the 4AA. Sophie definitely has relatively good punishes with stabs to deal with 4A and 4AA when I have Red Rose. Same with 1B. But you can kind of tell, so that was kind of a comeback where I lost the first two, basically getting sidestepped any and every time that I was trying to go for a vertical. So I just tried my best to only use verticals when I'm doing a whiff punish, right? This is something that I'm sure that I had talked about in like my first Amy video, I hope I did at least, where there's a lot of people who already understand that Amy 1B and 2-2B are incredibly powerful tools, but people are kind of sleeping or are not necessarily giving the same credence to her horizontals. And when you have Red Rose, her horizontals like 4AA and AAA become incredibly powerful. So you just have to switch it up, and you're constantly just like, you know, chopping down that tree. So there's another good punch out from my attack string. So you see there, he's essentially, once again, going for the same kind of hard reads on 2-2Bs and 1Bs. He's also relatively fine getting hit by horizontals because I don't have Red Roses yet. So what's the worst that could happen? He gets hit by like a 3A, he has to break a grab, or a 4A. You know, that's not a big deal. So you saw in that situation I blocked 6-6B, and I immediately went for a 6-6A. This is a little bit later on to the set in the set. I may have not have done that in the beginning, or maybe let's say in a tournament set. But essentially, after 6-6B, he can either try to use the spacing that 6-6B on block affords him to try and space out for like a whiff punish. So for instance, 4A I don't think is going to work all that well in those situations. Or he can try to challenge me with a 2A. So I went for 6-6A, trying to catch him moving. If he had gone for a 2A, I would have gotten smacked. So that's kind of the 50-50 mix-up there. So it's a shame that that mid-parry didn't work out. So there I get pretty lucky with a ring out. Again, I'm not entirely sure he was aware of his stage positioning. That happens a lot to me in this game. This is one thing that I've noticed either with Zeph or with Sophie in general, is Sophie wants to come in and try to do some sort of close range or mid-range pressure. She's always going to be coming in with the mid. That's all the moves, 6-6A and 6-6B and stuff like that. And so I end up doing a lot of situations where I'm not reacting. Like you may have thought that I reacted with a mid parry to a 6-6A, and that's not entirely true. I'm reacting to her coming in and using movement for an attack, and I'm betting on a mid parry because that's really what a lot of Sophie players want to do. The times that you see me get really chewed up by 1K, that's what I'm thinking about, and that's why I'm getting chewed up by it. See, here I'm trying to, you know, come up with another parry, and I'm really just getting hit. Wow, that's a lot of damage. And here I'm trying to, like, bait out a GI, which is why I did the A plus B. I get lucky trying to catch him on committing with the 1K. And you saw there, I blocked 6-6B, and he immediately did a 2A. The spacing should have given away that 2A was going to be what he was doing. Because before, when I blocked that previous 6-6B, he was much farther away from me, maybe about half a character length away from me. Here, he was literally right in my face. So 2A is most assuredly going to be the option that he uses. So I decided to spend Soul Charge to try and get something going. Here he hard commits to a sidestep yet again, and I get chewed up because I decided to go with a vertical instead. I think it's because I was a little bit antsy about rounds going by and me not getting Red Roses, which can really be an issue, right? And then you saw at the end there, he went with 4-4B into a classic tech trap with a 2A. Same spacing as he did with the 6-6B, so it's really kind of on me that I didn't go for a mid parry, or at least respect the 2A, because he had shown that exact same situation in the past. So here, it's the exact same situation of just trying to react to his movement with a mid so that I can go with a mid parry. And so here, as you can tell, yet again, when I'm committing to a vertical, I get screwed up. When I commit to horizontals, just like I did with that 2-3-6A, I end up getting paid off. So he's able to find the back turn B plus K. I use that way too much, and I should really stop doing that. He catches the GI, but I decide to move. One thing that I've noticed is that if Sophie tries to go for something that's going to punish you for not doing anything post-GI, it's significantly less damage than me trying to re-GI. So, you know, as the set went on, I eventually just decided to forego the concept of re-GIing. For the most part, I'll only do it a handful of times just because the amount of damage that I eat just feels like so much more, and it's so much more frustrating when I get hit by a break attack. So I'll just try to go for a hard sidestep to get a 2-2B like I just did there. You see him constantly sidestepping there, and that's a good GI on the AAA. It's not a lot of people who are doing that kind of thing just yet. That's something that people, that I guess I'll just have to get used to as Amy becomes more prominent character. Hopefully she becomes more prominent. So I get a really good A plus B read there, which almost kills him. I was a little bit frustrated that it didn't kill him, and I was especially frustrated after that happened. So, you know, I was antsy to finish the round. He hadn't used that option yet in the set, so it wasn't really something that I was looking for. So it's pretty clutch by Zeph. And you see how he's like changing up the timing on his moves to try and get away from parries. So not only is he mixing up the hit levels, but he's mixing up the timings as well. He's giving himself enough of an opportunity to see when I go for a parry and then punish accordingly. It's not a lot of people who can pull that off, and Zeph is very good at simplifying situations to the point of baiting out what the opponent's panic buttons are going to be. So here he mashes after 6-6 and hit again, and here he hard commits to a sidestep again. Everything that I've kind of talked about before. So you can kind of definitely tell what Zeph's plan is against Amy, and it is definitely appropriate. He tries to, it's essentially damage control. It's keeping Amy from really pulling off the most powerful moves that she has, 1B and 2-2B. Not only are the most scary moves in terms of, you know, not being seen and 2-2B having large hitboxes, but they also give you roses, right? So it's a short-term and long-term benefit for keeping me from getting any of those types of moves. But that's essentially the matches that I have here. Again, I think this is a matchup that Amy does particularly well in, and it's just a matter of kind of like you saw here. If you're dealing with a player who is hard committing to beating certain options, Amy is a very well-rounded character when it comes to her offense. So it's not necessary to always go for roses. You know, chances are I would have won that game if I had just never even gone for roses. If I had kept from being so narrow-minded, then I probably would have done a lot better. Every single time I went for horizontals, even if they weren't even souped-up horizontals, if it was just regular 4A and regular AA, it probably would have gone much better. So let me know what you guys think, and I'll see you guys next time. All right, thanks very much.